I'm just going to have a look at placing a bit of metal into my structure or adding a piece to my structure. There's some tools that we want to have a look at that we're going to use, and they are the grid tools. This is lets our items snap to particular grids. I'm going to pick the large one to start with. It's best to be using either the large or the medium one, unless you've got to do a really fine movement. And then the other tools we can use is going to be the translation and the rotation tool. There is a combination of the two, but when you're starting off, I think it's best just to use one at a time. So we're going to add our part, and I'm just going to pick a piece of C channel out of the common part area. Now to move it around, I've got my translation on, and I can move it up depending on which arrow I drag. And as I highlight each yellow arrow, it changes color to yellow. And so I know that that's the one that I'm actually selecting. So you can see I can move it around like that. Now, I want to put it hard up against here, so I also need to rotate it. So I'm going to change from my translation to my rotation tool. Now with my rotation, I can rotate it on that axis. I can rotate it on this axis. And again, it's the same as the arrows. As I highlight the axis I want, it changes color. So I'm going to rotate it down that way. So it is the right way around for where I want to place it. Now I'm going to use my translation tool and bring it up into position a bit better. So I'm going to bring it up to here, and I'm going to slide it across so that it's pretty close to being lined up with my holes, maybe not perfect. And now I'm going to bring it in against my upright. Now, everything is fine for me because I'm now hard up against that piece of metal. But if I wasn't hard up against that piece of metal, I might need to change to my smaller grid so that I can get a finer movement. And you can go to the even smallest grid at that point to get finer movement as well. So now I'm not lined up over the holes here. So I'm going to actually select it again, and I'm going to drag it until my holes are lined up here. Okay, and if I want to get my placing the same as the ones above, I'm going to bring it down just one set of holes, and it will snap to the holes because it's all lined up. And I need to grow this piece of metal a bit because I want it to come all the way across. And this is the handy part. I don't have to worry about selecting the right piece to start with. I get one end right, and I'll just keep pressing my plus, highlighting it and pressing the plus at the end here. And I'll grow it until I am at the size that I need it to be. And there we go. So now I've got the size that I wanted, and I've also got it in position. One other tool that we can use when we're moving our metal around like that would be the flip tool. So I've got this little button here which allows me to flip the piece, and now you see it's facing the other direction. The flip tool can take a little bit of getting used to because depending on where you click it to begin with, it might flip different directions. The other point that I might point out is that when I select my piece, I can move the part where I am, or the placement where I'm controlling it from. So if I didn't want to rotate it from that end and I wanted to rotate it around the middle, I could select the middle and then I can rotate it from around the middle. If I can grab hold of the axis that I'm looking for, I can rotate it around the middle like that. So that's how to use my tools for manipulating my piece into place. And once I've got my piece nice into place like that, I might say, okay, I'm going to add a second piece the same. Well, remember, if you're going to add a second piece the same or similar size on the other side, just use the clone tool. It's so much easier. So I've just cloned that piece, and I'll drag my clone away from the original piece and into its position there. So there we go. I have now added two pieces of C channel to my model.